Welcome back to Pet Food Forum TV. I'm Kristen Levine, your host, and I am joined by James Restivo, one of the pet experts at Nielsen. I wanted to call him the pet expert, but you insist you're one of the pet experts. How did your presentation go this morning?
It went fantastic. The audience was extremely engaged, and I think they were extremely excited to get on with Pet Forum and really start to understand the marketplace.
That's fantastic. Can you give us a little synopsis of what you talked about today?
Sure. The title of the presentation was The Leaders and the Followers, and it was all about the trends occurring on the human side and whether or not pet is a follower to those trends, or in some cases an accelerator of those trends, and really trying to talk about what is growing and driving growth in the marketplace.
So let me ask you, what is the #1 factor that consumers consider when buying pet food or selecting a pet food?
Nielsen believes, based on our research, that the #1 thing that pet parents are considering these days is the underlying health and wellness of the animal itself. We do surveys to consumers with our partner Harris, and in the latest one, 95% of consumers consider that pet as part of the family, and 1/3 of them are actually cooking for the pet. Yeah. So that means pet parents are becoming more and more aware of what they're giving their pet and more discerning in terms of what they're choosing from the shelf.
Interesting. 95%, did you say?
95% consider pets as a member of the family.
How were pet parents choosing pet food 10 years ago? What was their biggest concern?
As we've looked over the past 10 years, it's that discernment and education factor that's really the difference. And pet parents seem to be willing to pay for that difference. Spend is up about 35% since 2006 on pet food, which is an interesting statistic when you think that inflation has grown by just about 0 in that time. We're starting to see pet parents really demand quality, and that started back in 2007, 2008 with the need for USA made and USA sourced ingredients. Sure. And that just jumped off into things like natural and grain-free and everything we're seeing today with the human trends starting to migrate over to the pet side.
So James, what kind of innovations are you seeing now in pet food and in treats?
Nielsen has undertaken an exclusive partnership with a company called Label Insights. And based on that partnership, we're not just looking at claims of new products, we're looking at the ingredient statements, what's in and what's out. And from that, we're understanding the innovation that not is just hitting the shelf, but those innovations driving growth in the marketplace. And there's a couple themes we're seeing. #1 is clean label. As manufacturers are starting to take ingredients out of the products, we're seeing some growth in those products. We're seeing a rise in things like natural, and we're seeing a rise in things that are artificial ingredient free. The more emerging trends are things like superfoods. Think cranberries. If you have a cat, they've got urinary tract challenges. Manufacturers are putting cranberries in there, just like on the human side, to start to solve some of those problems. And even things like blueberries we're seeing on the rise for kale, quinoa as plant-based diets start to enter the marketplace. And it's a really exciting time for anybody in the industry as they start to think about, what do I need to do to be ready for what's next?
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, James Restivo, one of the pet experts at Nielsen, and we'll be back with more Pet Food Forum TV.